learn the tips and techniques during the tutorials. So please have patience and bear with us till the end of our videos, and I'll promise you by the end of this course, you will feel the joy of building a motion graphic project. So let's go. As I said, from now on we will work more project-oriented and less theoretically. One of the most popular styles in motion graphic is flat mode, or flat motion graphic. Here is a sample of what we're going to work on. As you can see, this example has a very clean and professional look to it. If you want to have a good motion graphic, first you need to have a good look on it. Because it doesn't matter how good your animation or motion is. It doesn't compensate for bad looking graphics. So make sure to use good materials on the artistic and visual part of your projects. Alright, this is what we're gonna work on. Some puzzle pieces that connect to each other, and this is the scene I'm gonna make. It's a fully 2D scene. How do we do that? First, let's make a new comp, set the size to 1080 and frame rate to 25 and then press OK. Now go to the video and find the scene that you want, which is the last frame of this video. This is what I want to make and is fully composed of shapes. To start, I use shape tools. Start drawing the shapes. First, draw the shape and then match the fill color of the shape. Click on this icon and then match both the fill and the stroke colors. Use the eyedropper tool to find the color. Here the fill is white and the stroke is black. Click on the eye icon and reduce its opacity a little. Increase the stroke size. Move the stroke layer beneath the fill layer. The stroke size is too big, so I use the motion tools script to match its size. Okay, the monitor is finished. Let's continue. There is another rectangle inside the monitor, so let's add it. Turn off its visibility and add a rectangle with sharp corners. Like this. Now we need to merge these two shapes so that the second square is inside the first one. Click on Add and choose Merge Path. Then move the merge path we just made and put it over our two rectangles. Now change the merge type to intersect. Add a fill color to our content group and set its color to white. This fill color, merge path and these two rectangles will make the inner part of our monitor. So let's group them and set a name for it. Go inside the group and copy the first rectangle layer and set a stroke for it. You can use the stroke size of our first rectangle, which is 18 pixels. Also, put its layer beneath the fill layer. Now we have the group we just made and this new rectangle. It is possible to do all this using Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, but I wanted to make this scene using only After Effects. It's a little bit more complicated, but it's worth it, since animating them will be much easier. Okay. We need another rectangle inside this. We can simply draw a sharp cornered rectangle over this one. Turn off the visibility and draw the shape. It's better if you put every element inside a different layer. For example, I will make every monitor related object inside the monitor layer. Don't forget to put the stroke beneath the fill layer. Reduce its size using the scale parameter in the Transform tab. This will be our screen. Also, reduce the corner roundness in Rectangle Path tab around 5 or 3 or even 1. Okay, here is our monitor. Now, let's make that round button. Use the ellipse tool for that. Hold Ctrl to start drawing from the center and Shift to make a perfect circle. Move the stroke layer and then reduce its size. I name this layer Power. Alright, our monitor is almost finished. All that's left is the stand holding the monitor. We don't need to use Merge Paths for it. To make it, I draw a rectangle. Like this. Reduce its corner roundness and convert it to Bezier paths. Now we can edit its path. Again, put the stroke beneath the fill layer. Set a name for this layer and move it under everything. It's a bit too round, so reduce it a little bit more. I also think the stroke is too big, so reduce the opacity of the layer and edit it. Reduce the stroke to 12. Also, you can draw this line using the pen tool. Draw a line over on this shape. Change the stroke to 12 or maybe 10. Change the line cap to round. I noticed that the color is not exactly white, so let's change it. This is the shadow layer. Put it under everything. Leave the screen, but using the eyedropper tool, change the inner rectangle's color. Then change the feel of other layers as well and match them with our source. Next, go for power layer. Now for a stand. Okay, here is our monitor so far. Let's change the name for its layer as well. You can see that there is other monitors in the left and right, so I duplicate the monitor layer and put them in their place. Now, let's go for the speakers. Make a new shape. And set both line cap and line join of the stroke to round cap mode. Reduce the stroke size. Reduce the opacity and match it more if needed. Set the name and right color for it. Now go for those circles inside it. Here's the first one. Match the fill color and the stroke as well. Duplicate it and use it for the inner circle. Now duplicate it again and use it for the lower circles too. Now, if I increase the opacity, you'll see an artifact. So make sure to put the stroke layers under the fill layers. We scaled the inner circle's strokes and now they are too small. Increase their size a bit. Do the same for the other strokes too. The speaker also has 4 dots in its corner and the line on the right side, so let's add them to our shape. Use pen tool to add the line. Edit the size and roundness of the strokes to match it with the video. It's still too thick. I think 6 is enough. We drew the line, now let's create the dots. We can't use the stroke on a dot, so instead I use the ellipse tool. Now rename the layers. Duplicate the dot and move them to the right position. Edit it if needed so that our shape matches the source. For example, ellipse 4 needs a bigger stroke. Rename the layer to a speaker. You can change the color if you want to. Duplicate the speaker layer and move it to the left side. Very well, now let's see how is the animation. It starts from here and ends on this point. Okay. Look at that cup. It has both round and sharp corners. Draw a shape over it. Now reduce the opacity a little to match it better. I reduce its roundness a bit more. Convert it to Bezier path. Then remove these points and match the paths to the shape. Now reduce the stroke. The base for the cup is ready. Now draw a rectangle inside it. We change the color later. Add merge path to it. Add fill and set its color. Don't forget to add a stroke. A stroke color should be black. Now let's check it out. Looks good, but I need a thicker stroke, like 5 pixels. Good. Now run the stroke lines. Very good. This is our inner rectangle. Make a group and set a name for it. Now move the cup layers into the new group. Copy and paste the rectangle 1 layer. Set its color. We also need 2 ellipses for the handle. Draw it like this and lower the stroke size. Duplicate it and reduce its size again. Now use merge path. Move the merge path under the ellipse layers and set it mode to exclude mode. Also add a fill and set its color. As you see, the fill affects all layers since it's outside our group. To fix it, group these layers and give it a name, for example, handle. Put it under all other layers. Now you can change its color. Don't forget to add a stroke to it. Set its color to black. Increase the size. Then put it under the fill layer. Done! Our cup is ready now. Being able to draw only using After Effects shape tools is very important, otherwise we wouldn't spend so much time on it. Many of our previous students had this question. Why would we spend time and energy on drawing while we can find already prepared shapes on the internet? Well, you can't always find what you exactly want, or even if you do, it may not be free, and if it was free, it comes as a sample and therefore has low quality. And you will be forced to draw your shapes using that image as a source. So it's always a good idea to learn how to draw. Alright, let's continue. We have another cup to the right, so duplicate the first cup we made and using the motion tool script put its anchor point to its center. Then flip it horizontally. Place it exactly where it should be and then change the color of the inner rectangle. Let's change its fill color. And our second cup is now ready. Okay, let's see what other objects are animated. The clock is jumping. Alright, let's get to it. In this cup, we have some leaves which is better to be made by hand. Draw the overall shapes using points. Name the layer. Set the line cap mode to round. Set its color as well. Reduce the stroke size. Now duplicate it. Put them under the cup layers. Don't forget to put a stroke under the fill layer too. Increase the size if it's too small. Find the anchor point of this layer. Here it is. I will put it here. If you remember, the anchor point of a layer was different than the anchor point of a shape, meaning the transform properties of each shape belongs to that specific shape. Now, if I put the anchor point here, I can easily rotate my second leaf to move it to its right position. Now I duplicate this again and rotate it like this to get my third leaf. Finally, I put the second leaf under the first leaf layer. It needs a little bit more tweaking. And we're done with the leaves. The steam coming out the second cup is made using trim pass. To remake it, first I find the starting point of it. Then, I will draw its shape as the animation plays. Here is the end of it. This is the steam layer. Round the stroke lines and joints. Don't forget to change its color. Lower the stroke size. Duplicate it and change its position. Now duplicate it again to make the third one. The steam is finished too. Now let's move on to this clock over here. I use a round corner rectangle for this. Draw it from the center. Cut it and make a new shape from it. Name it clock. The shape is done. Now change the color of the fill and the stroke. Now for the rectangle inside the clock. Again, we use merge path. Put it under the layers and set it mode to intersect. Add white fill and a black stroke to it. Adjust the thickness and round them. Now make a new group and name it. Copy and paste the first rectangle. Rename this layer to all. Adjust its fill color. Also move the strokes under the fill layers. Tweak it if needed. Now let's move to the bottom of the clock. I use the rectangle tool. Name the layer. It has two legs holding it. Draw the path of the shape. And round the strokes. Move them. Rename it. Duplicate it. And flip it horizontally. Also, don't forget to put the strokes under the fill layers. Reduce the stroke size to 8. Now duplicate the leg. Move the anchor point to its center. We can't flip it now, so we reverse the scale value for it. Type -100. You can't flip the shapes since it will ruin it. The legs are finished now. To finish it, I draw the small lines on the body. We can do this in two ways. Now listen carefully. First, we draw the lines like this. I name it line. Lower its size and round its caps. Duplicate it. Move it like this. Good. Duplicate it again and move it. Very good. Now duplicate these three. Reposition our new lines. Now simply adjust their points to match the image. And done! Our clock is almost ready. All is left is a small shadow under it. Also, I changed the lines group name to lines. Draw the shadow line like this. The stroke must be smaller. Round the caps too. Now decrease the opacity of the shadow layer. Around 50% is good. Still too thick. Now put it under everything else. We can change it if you want to. Now our clock is officially done. Type the numbers inside the clock if you want to. You can also do it later. Set its color to black and lower the opacity. Parent it to the clock and put the number layer above the clock layer. Now for the animations. First, let's make the speaker animation. Oh, I forgot to flip that left speaker. I'll do it now. Also, put them under monitor layer. We can add their shadows later. It doesn't matter for now. Alright, let's get started on animating. First, let's see how they are moving. Also, these are in 3D, so I make them 3D as well. Turn all layers into 3D layers. Add a camera. Set it like me and press OK. Add keyframes for these parameters. The motion starts from here, so we have to enter the monitor too. Then we move out like this. Solo the video layer to see it better. Change the keyframe positions to here. Easy ease them. You can do it using the Motion Tools script. Something like 75 is good. Now check the results. We have a smooth animation. It's almost identical to the video. Let's move to the speakers now. Solo the first speaker with the video layer. Now let's start animating. I think our camera motion needs a bit more tweaking. How about 100% easy ease? Okay, let's move on to the speaker. According to the video, the first speakers move to left and right. We can animate it like so using two nulls. Create two null objects. Turn them into 3D layers. And place them like so. Now parent the layers like me. Let me change the layer color of this null. Add keyframes to Z position and Z rotation of the speaker. Move the speaker here, and then turn it 180 degrees. Make a marker and move these two keyframes to here. Then move 11 frames forward. Change the speaker position like so. Adjust it if needed. Change the rotation to -360. Our camera doesn't match with our motion. Our motion is fast and then slow. Change the speaker position here. Move it like so. Okay, we need to change the handles a bit. Let's look at the motion again. It slows down a bit on top. So I easy use these keyframes. And when it hits this place, start moving to left and right. Let's get to it then. First, I reduce the opacity a little. Start with the yellow null. Add a keyframe to its rotation. In this frame, rotate the null so it matches the video. Like so. Then we hit the ground. Now easy is this keyframe. So far so good. Here we have to bounce, like movement causing the other side to move as well. We do that with the other null. It's normal on this frame. And rotate it on this one. Then it moves to its original position. Easy is the keyframes. Now check the results. Here we have some movement again. Add a keyframe now. Then go up. And easy is it. Now check the results. We can't use expressions like jump for this. If we do so, we wouldn't get the handcraft look for it. For example, we can make it so that our nulls get animated in the order that we want. Okay, the first speaker is now ready. We follow the same procedure for the animation of the second one. All we gotta do is to duplicate the speaker and its two nulls. Then add these two nulls into another null. And flip that null horizontally and delete it later. Now let's position it. And look at this. Press U and move the keyframes to match the video. Okay. Look at the speakers without the video. Let me explain the parenting again. A speaker got parented to the red null and the red null to the yellow one. Then we parented the yellow null to a third null and flipped it horizontally, meaning that we flipped all the objects and their animations. If the first speaker jumped to the right, this one will jump to the left. Since we had animated all of them together, we had to flip all of them together as well. Think to it again. I'll explain it once more. The speaker is parented to this red null and the red null is parented to the yellow one. If we move the red null, the speaker will move too, since it's a child to that null. And when we move the yellow one, both the red null and the speaker will move since they are both children to the yellow null. The speaker moved on two sides, thus we added two nulls to animate it. Don't forget, you can parent an object to only one object at a time. Very well, the speakers are done. Now for the small shadow beneath them. The shadow must not be connected to the speaker, so I add a shadow under the left speaker. You can rename it so you won't lose it later. Now go inside it and add a stroke to it and remove the fill. Then decrease its opacity to 50%. Also, make it a 3D layer. Now here's the thing. We want the shadow to be under the speaker and move only in its x-axis with the speaker. To do that, first separate the position parameter of the shadow layer. Then parent the x position of the shadow to the x position of the speaker. We have a problem. The anchor point isn't on the center. Undo using Ctrl+C. For this to work correctly, you need to change the anchor point of the whole layer, not only the x positions. Set the anchor point to the center and then separate the values. And now parent the x position of the shadow to the x position of the speaker. Pay attention. You need to parent it only to the x position, which is the first value of the position parameter here. We still have a problem. It's because the speaker is flipped horizontally. Let's flip the speaker again. In order to prevent such problems in the future, always remember to pre-comp the layers you want to work with. I'll fix this problem now. I move the shadow under the first speaker we made. Solo the speaker and the shadow layer. Move the shadow under the main speaker layer. Now parent the x position of the shadow to the x position of the speaker. Let's check the results. Adjust the anchor point. Now the shadow worked correctly. Delete the second speaker, pre-comp the speaker and its shadow. Rename it. Duplicate it. And flip it horizontally. Now adjust the timing if you need to. Move it into the timeline to match the video. Here we need to move the whole layer a bit to the left. Now check the results without the video. For the next lesson, we will complete this scene. For the homework, try to animate these two speakers. Try to have a light speed when working on tiny details. You can try to make the whole scene yourself, but your homework is only to work on the animating the speakers. Remember, try to only use After Effects for designing the shapes. For you, this will take less than an hour, since we had to do some try and errors in this lesson too. So try not to make the same mistakes as we did here. Good luck, and I will see you all in the next lesson.